We're here at the Triple Play Real Estate Convention 2024, and I'm interviewing Brian Martinez,
That's right.
also known as B-Money.
That's right.
Legendary.
Legendary.
Anytime that you go into any room, you say B-Money in the floor, you know?
Right.
So here we are. I'm going to ask you some questions.
Seat. Why don't you
Right. Look at that.
buddy? You're in my
What are you
seat.
doing,
Get
man?
out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here.
I
Ready
mean,
for my close-up, huh?
what's going on here?
Well, if it's not my long-lost pal George.
Huh?
Looking grinchy today.
So are you taking over B-Money's seat?
You better believe it. How's
So-
everybody doing?
So do I have any other choice, guys, but to interview the Grinch?
I'm your handsomest guest here.
Okay, so tell me, Christmas or what?
Christmas? More like Grinchmas.
He's in a bad mood. Isn't that incredible? So talk to me. You represent.
So we represent an inspection company. We recommend you do not use us, okay? We do not serve all of New Jersey, and we do not serve all of Eastern Pennsylvania. So yeah, we have about 13 inspectors, ancillary services, whatever you're looking for. We'll go into your cave, we'll make sure all of it smells right, you know, stuff like that.
You know what? I'm gonna cut this interview short.
All right.
Listen. Brian, come here. You know, I have to apologize to the audience. We got interrupted by the Grinch. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that he pulled you out of the.
Yeah.
So we're going
I
to
thought you were going to
continue.
save me, by the way.
You know, but we're going to continue this interview with Brian Martinez. Talk to us.
All right. Well, I'll tell you this. George, amazing broker, amazing coach. He's Nick Saban of. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Nick Saban. He was one of the best coaches in college football. George is the best coach in real estate. So yeah, I've learned a lot from you. I'm recognized as the youngest realtor to sell a $4 million home in the United States. At the age of 19, I'm 21 now. That was a great listing, by the way.
It was a great listing, but I have to tell you one thing. I was very impressed, Brian, of your resiliency. Your follow-up was brutal, and
Yeah.
that's how we were able to get the listing.
Right.
You were consistently following up. This was a property that was listed for $4.5 million
Yeah.
with one real estate company. Then 6 months later, it was listed with a second real estate company for $4.3 million.
Right.
Then you noticed that the listing expired. You initiated a comprehensive follow-up. You never gave up. Eventually, you scheduled an appointment.
Yeah.
I remember going into the listing, beautiful property, and the seller wanted how much?
$4.3 million. That's what. But he said in his pocket 4.1. That's what he wanted.
He wanted 4.1.
Right.
4.1. Actually, what the seller said was, you give me a contract for 4.1 and I will be happy.
Right.
So my question is, why do you think a seller who wants 4.1 overprices the house for 4.5 and then 4.3? It doesn't make any sense.
It does not make any sense.
So we listed the property
For $3.995 million.
and it ended up selling for how much?
For 4.367.
So what is your recommendation to real estate agents based on that experience?
Be persistent, of course, because that's what we were doing, being persistent, following up. And you have to be very aggressive, very tough. That's what you have to do in this business. Because if you're weak, you're not going to be in the business for a long time.
Yeah, weakness is not part of the real estate
Right.
business. But consistency is important. The youngest real estate agent probably in the whole United States
Yep.
to sell a house for $4.3 million.
Right.
4.367
Right.
actually. Almost 4.4 that was listed for 3.9.
Right.
And this is a buyer that came from New York.
Right. From New York.
So strategically pricing a property to get the traffic is important, right?
I agree with you. I'm with you on that. And we were very strategic in negotiating 372,000 above asking. It took a couple of days to get it done.
You know, one of the most incredible things was the strategy when the seller asked, how much is your commission?
Right.
And you answer, my commission, as well as I am concerned, could be zero. The question is, are you going to get the traffic that you want to get the property sold at the price that you want at 0% commission or 1% commission?
Right.
You know, it is unquestionable that the commission works as an incentive, not as a payment for the services provided, but as an incentive to a cooperating broker to generate traffic, right?
Right, correct.
And what did you do with this particular listing in what relates to the commission paid to the cooperating broker?
Well, we offered 3% commission, and which, of course, drove more traffic in, and that was a very strategic. You were very smart for that as well. Yeah, and you helped out a lot too on that.
You know, do you think that you win wars with weapons or with strategy?
With strategy.
With strategy, right?
Yeah.
That's what made Napoleon Bonaparte a great military strategist. And the same thing happens in real estate, Brian. You know, sometimes real estateers think that this is a job or this is what I have to do, not understanding that at the moment that you wake up, what strategy am I going to put together to be able to persuade someone who I have shown or I'm going to be showing 8 houses to come up and say, you know what, I want to put 3 offers on 3 of the 8 houses that you show me. Strategy, right?
Strategy.
When you assemble the real estate contract to get it accepted. Strategy, right?
Right.
When the client asks you what is the interest rate and what are my monthly mortgage payments. Strategy, right?
Right.
Talk to us about that.
The strategy is very important in this business, of course. I'd say the most important strategy is don't be weak at all. Don't be what are the words? That's a tough one, but don't be weak, don't be scared, and just wing it. Just wing it.
Now, another question that I wanted to ask you, Brian, you went to what real estate school?
Absolute Real Estate School.
Absolute Real Estate School.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the director of that school.
Yes.
And I've been coaching you, but you have been a good student.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, as young as you are, Brian, you have become very successful. You're very receptive to the information, you're very receptive to the coaching, and you put into practice,
Right.
you're not afraid.
Yeah.
And that is important.
That is true.
Is that one of the reasons why, at a very young age, you have become successful in
Yes.
real estate?
Yes, and I'm not afraid to hit multi-million-dollar homes. You know that we were very, very close to hitting an $8.7 million home.
$8.7 million.
Yeah.
The seller was this close.
Very close.
That was also an expired listing that Brian pursued. The seller was very close to list this property with Brian, but within 3 weeks,
3 weeks.
he sold it himself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have landed a second multi-million-dollar listing.
In Spring Lake too.
In
a
Spring
few
Lake.
blocks away.
You know, many real estate agents are afraid of pursuing this type of market.
Yes.
Is it difficult?
No, it's not difficult. I'd say out of all the transactions I've faced in the real estate industry, the $4 million home, 420 Lolo, was the most smoothest transaction, smooth as butter, I'd say.
Smooth as butter.
Yeah.
We listed the property for 3.9. It ended up selling for 4.367. The original offer was for 3.9.
Mm-hmm.
You negotiated with the listing agent
Right.
up to you wanted 4.4 for your client.
Right.
We got 4.367, but he got.
And I remember that day. I was at a Colombian restaurant when I got the offer. I was sitting with Kevin, amazing videographer, and we got the offer for $4.3 million. I remember going to the office after lunch, and I told you, George, we got it, $4.367 million. And I remember the buyer's agent submitted the offer for 3.995. Then she boosted it to 4.1, then to 4.2. It took 4 days, and then finally 4.367. I told the agent, if you get me an offer close to $4.4 million, you got it. And that's what she did.
And it is also important for real estate agents to understand this business, the emotions of the buyer and the seller sometimes may get in the way
Right.
to close a real estate transaction. Real estate agents should serve as mediators,
Right.
mediators between buyer and seller. And I say this because sometimes real estate agents, although they participate as mediators, they antagonize the buyer against the seller against the buyer. It becomes a war of emotions. It becomes a power struggle between the buyer and the seller, and then there goes the transaction down the tubes.
True. And the only obstacles that I saw before getting the offer was, you remember that there were real estate agents that were still communicating with the owner, telling them, why did you list with them? You know, they're not from around the area. And I remember that we told the seller, listen, the buyer is not from around there. It's coming from New York, and that's what we do because we're licensed in New York as well.
Because we're licensed in New York.
And one thing I learned is mediocre people don't like high-achieving people, and then high-achieving people don't like mediocre people. That's one thing I'd say.
Repeat that. I really like that.
Mediocre people don't like high-achieving people, and high-achieving people don't like mediocre people. And that's one thing I learned in that aspect, I'd say.
And that is absolutely true. Mediocre people always try to torpedo
Right.
highly achieving people.
Right.
And I'm glad you understand that because in this business you have a lot of that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that.
I've seen that.
But you mentioned something very important. You always tell the seller, you do not need to lease your property with a real estate agent within the perimeter of the property,
Right.
because the buyer is not coming from around here.
Right.
The buyer is coming from another state.
Right.
In many cases from another country.
Right.
So how are you going to position the property to bring this buyer from another state? Like in this case, the one who bought this property for 4.367 was a buyer from New York, open heart surgeon, you remember?
Right. Yes.
And he paid the money for the property.
Yep.
Because we are licensed in New York,
Right.
we were able to bring a buyer from New York to buy the property.
Right, and he was very impressed with what we were able to do. Even the superintendent, the one that was working the project, the one in charge of the project, he was impressed when we brought in the media team. You remember, that was the second appointment. Yeah, he was very impressed, and I think that's why also we got the listing too, the media team, and also advertising to New York.
Because it is important, a property should not be shown.
Right.
A property should be show off. I mean,
Right.
I'm going to show off my listing. And that is important to get the property in front of as many eyeballs as possible.
Right, right. And there was a lot of psychology going on too. I remember we had lunch with the seller, what was it, under a month before getting the offer. You told him, listen, we can give you a release. And he said, no, we're doing fine. But he was getting a bunch of calls from real estate agents. Again.
Yeah, you know, we listed the property. 2 weeks later, we go and have lunch. The seller is being bombarded by many unethical real estate agents from the perimeter who are questioning the fact that he listed with us an hour away from the property. And I use reverse psychology. I told the seller, hey, listen, if I don't think anyone is going to get you the money that we're going to get you.
Right.
Or get the job the way Premier Homes is going to get the job done and Brian Martinez. But if you want, I'll give you a release right now.
Right.
And he said, no. You know, sometimes real estate agents, they clinch into and they fight and argue for what they have not earned.
Right.
You have to be willing to let go,
Right.
so that what you want to get, you get it.
Right. True. And then another case. This was a pre-foreclosure in Martinsville. We went to that listing appointment. We ended up coming out. What was it? Close to 1 a.m.
Yes.
Yes. And the homeowner wanted to sell. That was actually one of the most incredible listing appointments I've ever been in. Of course, Lalo wasn't also a great listing appointment, but remember she started tearing up, and we almost got that listing.
We almost got the listing. And I'll tell you, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep doing it, Brian. That's how you do it. That's how you have to be. That's how you have become successful.
Right.
And it is a great pleasure to be working with you, definitely.
I appreciate that. I remember, I think it was the first week at Premier Homes. You told me, my goal is for you to quit your job. And I remember you told me that. We were coming out of an open house, and then boom, 1 week later, I quit my job, and then 2 months after that, I got the listing in Spring Lake.
And I also said another thing. I'm going to change you in such a way that in 6 months, not even your parents are going to recognize you.
That is true. That is true.
And hopefully I was able to accomplish that.
Yes. A lot of people say that I'm more aggressive now. I'm more aggressive, but in a good way, though.
Yes.
Not being nasty, you know.
I would say you're more persistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And you got to be tough in this business. That's
Brian,
what I
thank you
tell
very
people.
much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, a pleasure
Fantastic.
too.
Keep doing what you're doing. And what do you have to tell real estate agents for 2025?
For 2025, well, I just saw it here. Of course, at Triple Play, the event we're at now, you see less and less agents here, and I guess agents are weak, you know, and that's why they left the business. But if you're aggressive, you're tough. If you know how to speak very well, then definitely you'll be in the business for many more years to come.
I think that the main problem in the real estate business, because of the NAR settlement, real estate agents have not been trained to understand.
I agree.
That specific change, and they have taken it the wrong way, and they have bailed out of the business.
Right. They need a good mentor. You need a good mentor and a good coach. And the best coach and the best mentor is George Castro.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's
Take
always
care.
a pleasure.